In GMAT percentages, it's very important to distinguish between a percentage of something, which is a share of something, and a percentage increase or decrease of something. And the latter represents by how much something is going to change relative to its original amount. So let's explore that in a bit more detail with an example. So let's say that we're increasing a price by 25%. Now, we can express that as, well, first of all, calculating 25% of the previous price or the old price. But since this is an increase compared to this old price, we need to then add that to the old price to get the new price. And actually, you may notice here that this 25% of the old price, so we can write that as 0.25 times the old price. But since we then have to add this to the old price, we can then factorize that together and write this as 1.25 times the old price. So when we're expressing a 25% increase, there's two ways of translating that into maths. One would be by calculating 25% of the old price and then adding it to the old price. Another way would be to directly calculate 1.25 times the old price. So this 1 point something effectively translates the fact that we're adding to the initial or old price. Let's see how that translates into a simple example. So if x is 100 and we're going to increase it by 30% and we want to work out the new value, well, there's two ways of doing that. So first of all, we can calculate 30% of 100. That gives us 30. And then we can calculate the new value by adding that 30 to the old value, and we get 130. Or we could use that shortcut that we have seen, and we could just say, well, it's going to be 1.3 times the old value, which is 130. Now, what happens if something decreases by 40%? What's going to happen then? Well, again, we're going to calculate 40% of the old value, but this time we're not going to add it to the old value, but we're going to subtract it. Right? And that makes sense because if something is decreasing, then we're going to be lower than the old value, and therefore we need to subtract something from it. And just like there is a shortcut for adding, there is also a shortcut for subtracting. So when something decreases by 40%, you can write that as minus 0.4 times the old value. But then when we factorize that together, 1 minus 0.4 becomes 0.6. And this is another way of expressing a 40% decrease. We multiply the old value by 0.6. Another way of thinking about that is a 40% decrease of something represents just taking 60% of the original amount.